So, we're going to get back to our theme, Serve One Another, part 2. 3 weeks ago, I started that. And, it's about, our theme for this year is one another. And this is part of that. So, before I do, here's a joke for you. I like this, and I'm pretty sure Linda will appreciate this. If I look back there and you're not laughing, Linda, then I know that you didn't appreciate that. A weasel walks into a restaurant. And right away, wow, I've never seen a weasel before. What can I get you? Asks the waiter. Pop, goes the weasel. Wally, you're not laughing at that one. He's just shaking his head, and he says, Wally's thinking this is the best we can do. Yeah, pretty much. Okay, so recap. The first section of my message today is recapping for 3 weeks ago to get you on the page. If you recall, we're in 1 Peter, so you can open your Bibles, and you go to that now, and you should have scripture and fill in the blanks, notes in your bulletin. So if you want to go to 1 Peter in your Bible, that's always a good thing to do. What we saw 3 weeks ago, we looked at Jesus, his mission on earth. His mission when he came to this planet was not to be served. How many know that of all people in the world, in the history of mankind, Jesus was the one who should have been served, but he didn't come to be served, but he said that he came to serve. The Son of Man came to serve. And he really did an awesome job in modeling that, especially that night with the Last Supper when he was with his disciples in the upper room, and we're going to talk more about this next week. We get into Holy Week, and I hope you come. We have Monday, Thursday here, Good Friday over at Rexton. Now, let me just digress a bit and say that, we'll have communion, foot washing here. That's the emphasis for Monday, Thursday. We're kind of looking at what they did on that evening. And then Good Friday, it's up in the air whether we'll have communion over at Rexton or Nobbin Way or not, because we're trying to keep with what happened to the events of that night. So just keep that in mind. But we'd encourage you to come for those services. So Jesus is in the upper room with his disciples, and he modeled this service, being a servant, so well when he got on his knees in front of each disciple, and he washed their feet. That's Peter, Andrew, James and John, the sons of thunder, Judas, the betrayer, Philip, Nathaniel, the list goes on. He washed the feet of the disciples. And he's called for you and me to do as he did. And we can easily look at it as washing of the disciples' feet. We do that here. We practice that here. But also, maybe more importantly, being servants. Jesus has talked about, when he's teaching disciples about, if you want to be the greatest, you got to be the least here. If you want to be great in the kingdom of heaven, you're going to be the least here, and you're going to serve. That's what you do. Upside down kingdom. So we're called to serve one another. We looked at 1 Peter 4:10. From the New Living Translation, it reads like this. God has given each of you a gift from his great variety of spiritual gifts, from his bag of spiritual gifts. Use them well. How? Why? To serve one another. Peter's giving us his word picture of God has all these gifts that he wants to give to his people. And he does. Each one of you has a spiritual gift of some sort, some variety, some shape, some size. And while, if you remember 3 weeks ago, I said while he may give us the gift, two people, the same gift of wisdom because of personality, they're showed and manifested a little bit differently because he knows our unique personalities. But he's given each of us at least one gift. If you're a follower of Jesus, some of you have more than one gift, but I would suspect that you have one predominant gift that really stands out. He's given us these gifts, and he's given gifts to you and to me, and in turn, he's asking you and me to use these gifts for other people. It's you and me taking what's been given to us, and we turn around and use it to encourage, to help, to equip, to bless other people. There's a reason why God's given you your gift. And it's very simple. It's for the purpose of building up the kingdom, building up the body, encouraging the body. It's not to be held by you. The gift isn't meant for you and you alone. It's not meant for you to say, oh, I got this wonderful, beautiful gift. I'm sorry. That gift is meant to be shared. It's not like a birthday gift. It's not like a Christmas gift that we do here. We go, oh, Daryl gave me a brand new Matthew bow. Oh, thank you, Daryl. You didn't, but, you know. And it's not that way at all. It's a gift that's meant to be shared. And so, as I thought about that, the gift that's meant to be shared for the building up of the entire body, I thought, so this really becomes an issue of stewardship. Stewardship. It becomes managers of what God's given us. So often we think of stewardship, we think of money. We think of material possessions that we have, being good stewards and using that, but also using our gift in a way that glorifies God. And the gifts that he's given us, whether it's wisdom or whether it's mercy or whether it's helps, and the list can go on. We can find big lists in the Bible. Whether it's anything that he's given us, we're called to manage those gifts. In other words, to be stewards of those gifts. And that's what Peter's saying. Using a gift to serve others is a matter of stewardship. From the English Standard Version, it says, as each received a gift, use it to serve one another as good stewards of God's varied grace. A good steward, there it is. Now, I'm looking up this stuff, and I come across other places where we're called to use our gifts for serving one another. So I come to Galatians 5:13. Paul tells us this. He says, you were called to freedom, brethren. Only do not turn your freedom into an opportunity for the flesh, but through love, what's that? Serve one another. Serve one another through love. Now, before I get to the point here that I'm going to make, I need to give you a quick explanation of freedom. I really felt like God's calling me to talk about this just for a little bit. Some of your versions may say to be free. Some may say, use the word liberty. So some versions translate. What happens is we tend to go to extremes. Whether it's in politics or religion or whatever. Some people tend to go to extremes on things, and it includes followers of Jesus, because why? We're just people. We do that. One person might interpret the word freedom as liberty or freedom as anything goes. I'm a Christian. I've been forgiven. I can do what I want. I can go what I want. I can be with what I want. I can do what I want. It's anything goes type of thing. And they really start moving toward what Jude 4 talks about as license for immorality. Start moving toward this very extreme, this hyper grace, hyper liberty. And we do that because some people are really extreme, But the problem is, on the other end of the extreme spectrum is a person who's very legalistic. And says, wait a minute, you can't do that. You don't have that kind of freedom. You don't have this, and here's the line, and this, and and they take Romans 14, which talks about, yes, eating and all drink and all food is permissible, but you shouldn't cause a brother to stumble, and you're making me stumble, and if you're the one saying you're making me stumble, you're using this really wrong, okay? So it's causing the brother who doesn't know any better to stumble. But somewhere in between all this hyper grace and all this hyper legalism is true Christianity. Somewhere in between is way we're supposed to walk in liberty and freedom, And extreme is rarely good. Let me just say that. Extreme is rarely good. So Paul says that you and I are, notice he said, called to freedom. It's calling. We're called to freedom. Understand, here's a note. You're going to fill a bunch of stuff in here. If you're a follower of Jesus, then you and I are free men and women. We're absolutely free. We're free from the guilt of sin because we've experienced the forgiveness of God. We don't have to be bogged down by that stuff that we did 30 years ago or 10 years ago or last week. Jesus has washed that and taken care of that. And we're free from the penalty of sin. You know, Jesus has died on the cross. He went to the cross for you and me. He took the punishment for the penalty of sin. And we don't have to go down that road anymore. We're free. Jesus said if a man is or a woman is free, they are what? Free indeed. And he's called us to that. And through the Spirit of working in our lives, we're free from the power of sin. Sin doesn't have to have a hold on you. It doesn't have to grab you by the ankle. Hebrews tells us, let's throw off the sin that so what? Easily entangles us. Or the besetting sin. You know, Luella, besetting sin is what you grew up with, right? Yeah. We sin that so easily entangles us is what I grew up with. So, you know, the sin that, let's throw that stuff off. We're free from the power. And we're also free from the law. The law with all its do's and don'ts, that hyper-legalism, you know, all the demands and the threats that the law puts off. Jesus, how many know? Jesus took the curse of the law and ended its oppression once and for all. We don't have to be that. We're called to freedom. And we're called to freedom, called by the grace of Christ, 1 Corinthians 6. Grace and liberty go together. So we're not under that law, that bondage, that hyper-legalistic law. But Paul goes on in his text here, after he explains that we're called to freedom, he tells us this. He gives us this caution. He says, do not turn your freedom into an opportunity of the flesh, for the flesh. You know, in other words, don't allow your liberty to fall into license and anything go. And understand, license is always it's all about me. When people are living under license, they're living under hyper grace, it's an attitude of, it's all about me. It's my way. I don't care what you want. I don't care what they say. I want to do this. And then we tweak the Bible. We tweak the gospel message to make it fit what we want. I'm free. I'm free in Christ. Christ died for me. I can do whatever I want. You ever heard people talk that way? I can do anything. And then they don't live. License is selfish. That's just what it is. So Paul then says, what's the answer for it? Paul gives us the answer. For whether it's license or whether it's liberty or whether it's legalism, he gives us the answer. He says, but through love, serve one another. And I like that. It's pretty simple. Take care of each other. Help each other. Watch out for each other. Serve one another. The wisest man in history, Solomon, said this. Proverbs 6:6. Go to the ant, O sluggard, consider her ways and be wise. Now, I know that this text is talking about the sluggard would be a lazy person, the person who gives all sorts of reasons why they won't or can't work or do whatever and expects to be taken care of and all this stuff. And I'm not talking about that today. For us, this message, I think it'd be good to take a look at the ant. I read that this week and I said, go to the ant, O sluggard, consider her ways and be wise. So I thought, what does it mean to consider her ways? Tim, it means research. To look at the ant. Why an ant? And I looked up ants in the Bible. I used my fancy computer concordance, and this is really the only place it talks about ants. So I thought, okay, Solomon was wise. I need to pay attention to somebody that's wise. So I started researching ants, and I'm looking up ants, and I come across a Stanford professor, Deborah Gordon, and I watched a TED Talk by Deborah Gordon, and I saw some YouTube videos and spent time reading some of her stuff and looking at some of her stuff. And I'm not going to give you everything about these little critters. You understand, ants, it's amazing. Ants are really amazing, really. I like the movie Ant-Man, by the way. Ants can carry 20 times their weight. So if a person weighs 100 pounds, they can carry a ton. Pretty impressive, I'd say. I'm glad my dog's not an ant. She would run over me. Dewey be a terror. He already is. But so ants can do some absolutely amazing things. How many of you know there's a queen? in the colony, right? You know that? How many of you know that the queen gives direction? Do you know that? Absolutely, you would be wrong. The queen does not give direction. There's no foreman. There's no, according to Deborah Gordon, Dr. Deborah Gordon, there's no overseer. There's no head ant. Ants, well, they just do. They just somehow do. They operate mostly by smell. Ants can't see. Most ants can't see at all, so they operate mostly by smell. And ants smell and they communicate through their antenna. They emit odors through their antenna. And so ants are walking along and they come across another ant and they touch antenna. Ever seen that? Ever looked at ants? As a kid, I used to look at ants. I used to also take magnifying glasses to ants, but that's another story. That's another story. But, so, ants touch antenna together, and it tells them if this ant is from a different nest, a colony, or what this ant has been doing. And it tells by the odor that they have, right? That's how they smell. There's 4 main categories of ants in a colony. There's the foraging ant. The foraging ant simply goes out and gets food. That's their job. They go out and get food. They generally don't go more than 20 meters away, but they go out and get food. There's the patrolling ant. Does just that. The patrolling ant's the first one out of the nest in the morning, and they go out and they patrol the area. They make sure it's all secure and okay. And what's interesting about this is when the patrolling ants go out, because ants communicate by touching antenna, they come back and they let the foraging ants know if, hey, it's okay, go out and get us some grub, some food. Wouldn't say grub, but food. So patrolling ants, when they come back, if there is a gap in their line, then the foraging ants say, wait a minute, something happened here. We have some ants missing here. Why is there a gap in the line? There's danger out there. We're not going. Then there's also the nest maintenance ant. Now, these nest maintenance ants, what they do is they take care of the nest. They take the dry dirt out of the nest, and they take the moist dirt, and they pack the walls, kind of like an adobe thing with the moist dirt. And so they're moving the dry dirt out and just packing up, and that's all they do. And then there's the last one is midden or refuse ants. They take care of the refuse in the colony, and they take care of the pile, and they put colony-specific odors on the refuse that help guide the foraging ants back to the colony. So all that's free. We're not charging for that today. That's just information that you'll probably never use unless you're on Jeopardy someday. But so I'll take ants for 50, please. But all I said, I was thinking about this, and I think, so if there's no boss, if there's no top ant director, if there's no foreman, if there's no site supervisor, if there's no whatever, to tell any of the other ants, the foraging, patrolling, the maintenance, the midden, what to do, how do they know what to do? I mean, how does that just happen? For example, so ants, you're on a picnic. You take your picnic basket and you go out for a picnic. and so you're on a picnic, and how many know that ants are normally the uninvited guests to your picnic, and you drop your egg salad sandwich or your pizza or whatever you happen to, or your chicken or whatever. And you don't take care of don't follow the 5-second rule. You say it's on the ground, I'm going to leave it there. What happens? Anybody know? Ants, right? Ants. Ants come up and they take it. Well, these ants check out your egg salad and they say, wow, there's a lot, that's a big sandwich. We got to do something. So they let other ants know that, hey, we got some food over here. It's egg salad this week. We need help. All the other ants, the patrolling ant, the maintenance ant, the midden ant, they drop what they're doing and they go out according to the size of the egg salad sandwich. They go out and help bring that sandwich back to the nest. They take it apart. You've seen that, haven't you? They take what they can carry, remember 20 times their weight, and they take it back to the nest. They all just drop what they're doing, no direction. It's an automatic response, and we need help to get food. We do that. Solomon says, go to the ant, O sluggard, consider her ways and be wise. And what was it Peter told us? As each has received a gift, use it to serve one another as good stewards of God's varied grace. Use a gift. Be like the ant. Use the gift that God has given you. Don't wait to be told. Just use it. Just like the ants. Why? To serve one another. John 13:34. I've used this many times, and I'll continue using it because I just think it is just a life-changing verse when it comes to being a follower of Jesus. Jesus, the night he was betrayed, the night he was arrested, tells his disciples, "A new command I give you: love one another." That's my command. How? As I have loved you, so you must love one another. Why? By this, all men will know that you're my disciples if you love one another. Okay? It's not love somebody as you want to be loved. It's not the golden rule anymore. It is love one another as Jesus, who went to the cross, who died for us. The simple act of serving one another, of showing compassion, showing love, serving each other, is a visible expression of our love for one another. And if that's a tangible, visible way to show love, then I believe the world will see that. And I believe they'll know, because of the way we serve one another, they'll know who we are and whose we are. I believe if we are a people who serve other people, especially in the church family, the world's going to say, you know, those people, there's something about them. They really help. When you see somebody serving somebody else, don't you think of caring, that they care? I think it's a way we show love for each other. But also, I believe it goes beyond that. And I told her I'm going to do this, so I don't think I'll get in too much trouble. I'm going to talk about Kathy for a bit. She's out there. Okay. Good. She's probably sitting out there, too. I spy with my little eye. Anyway, so Kathy is one who has the gift of helps, or the gift of service. I mean, she just, helping and serving others and doing things is just in the front of her mind all the time, you know? For example, we go to a ball game at the school, and we're sitting in the bleachers, the game's over, it doesn't matter whether we win or lost, the game's over, and I'm talking to people. You know what Kathy's doing? She's walking the bleachers, literally walking the bleachers, picking up trash. She grabbed it if she sees a trash can, because Debbie puts cans out, I think or somebody puts cans up in the stands, and or basket, whatever, and she takes that and she starts picking up trash. Now, people can look at that and say, "Oh, look at they left their trash, and that's so nice that she's picking up, helping them, do that, and that's nice that she's doing that." But really, she does it, and she's helping the people whose job it is to clean up the stands afterwards, because there's volunteers that do that, right? Is that right? Volunteers that clean up, sweep, and do all that. Yeah. She's really helping those people, and they don't even realize, maybe they do now, that she's doing that. Another example, we're at the Link conference last week. Last week. And we're done, the conference is over, we're in the sanctuary, and I'm talking to Marcus Meekin from Seven Hills Church down in Kentucky, and I look around for Kathy, and I don't see her. Oh, she's over there on the other side of the sanctuary. Guess what she's doing? She's weaving through the pews, the chairs, and she's picking up trash. Guess what kind of ant she is? She's, and the next thing I know, she's coming down the aisle. She's got a garbage bag, and she's putting it. And I said, "Is that somebody's water?" I don't know. She's cleaning up. She's cleaning up. She's picking up trash. That's what one more. We were married, and this June we'll be married 37 years ago on our wedding day. We didn't have big meals like they do a lot of times now, like we did for our girls. We had maybe cake. I had cake, ice cream, and maybe some finger sandwiches, but that was about it. So we have the wedding. It's a really cool wedding. Wish you could have been there. There was a production. I was in a band. We had all the music. My band played. We had 45 minutes to an hour wedding. We had slideshow. We had all this stuff going. It's like I say. I should have sold tickets. We had like 400 people at the wedding. So, I mean, that was just a mistake. I just didn't have my business mind going, you know. Anyway, so we're done, and her dad has a horse and carriage business, and he takes us off on this carriage ride, and we go through town and stuff, little Middlebury, Indiana, and we come back, and we have cake and ice cream, do all that with the people. People are leaving now because it's about time to go, and the family is cleaning up, you know, the church. Next thing you know, Kathy's cleaning the church. It is my honeymoon night. That was not in the front of my mind, okay? I'm just saying, okay? We help clean up the church before we leave for our honeymoon. So that is my wife. I love her dearly. I just love her more and more every day. And I've concluded that I've married an aunt who's crossed between the maintenance worker and the midden aunt. You know, and she's just doing that stuff. Actually, it's an awesome quality that she has. And a lot of you here have that quality too. I've seen it. I've seen a lot of you do that. For me, not so much. You know, I can walk right by something because my mind is here going. I'm just, you know, Kathy, she will drop something and go and help over here and then come back and get that. Me, if I'm carrying, putting something away, it's all in my mind right now. You know, I'm a pretty simple guy. You know, yeah. I'm a man. Yeah. Well, yeah. I'm not going to digress. I could go. I'm not going to get in. Anyway, back to my notes. Here's what happens when I get off my notes. You know, all I'm saying is I'm not like Kathy. And some of you aren't like Kathy. Some of you are. So when it comes to serving, and you're not like that, that is not your nature. Your nature is just a... If that's your nature, and you're like me, you have to work at serving. You have to work at seeing that. Some people can see what needs to be done. Now, you know, you put me on a job site, you know, of some sort, I can see stuff that needs to be done and I can do that. But, you know, some of the other things, I just don't get that, you know. So you need a trigger. So let me just say this. If you're like me and you see somebody serving in a way, let that be a trigger for you to look for something. Oh, how can I serve? So often, I want to get home. I want to do this. People who have the gift of serving are selfless people, and they want to help. And that's really a good quality we all could learn from. You know, not for me. I want to help. And granted, not everybody can help in the same fashion, in the same way. You know, you do what you can, and that's how that is. I get that. So, you know, we need to learn to do that, and sometimes we need to do that. So whether it's a ball game or here at church or just out in the community, follow the example, put self on the shelf, not elf on the shelf, but self on the shelf, and just for a moment, and serve. Here at church, when we have potluck, when it's time to set up, grab a table, you know. When it's time to pack it up, don't leave, pitch in just a little bit. Many hands make light work, right? You know, it's amazing when we all pitch in together on things, it really does make a difference. And if you don't know what to do, the best thing to do is ask. Ask. Because when I've got permission that says it's taken care of, you don't need to do anything, okay, I can go and not do anything, you know, right? But some of you still find stuff. Or maybe you see something you walk into someplace, and that doesn't have to be church here, it can be out wherever. You walk into someplace and say, well, that doesn't look right. Sometimes our first inclination is, whose job is it to fix that? Maybe we should just say, well, you know, I can fix that. I can change that light bulb. I can open that door for that person. I can do this. I can do that. You know, just do that instead of just take care of those things. Again, whether it's home or at a game or on the streets. After the parade, maybe after the parade on the 4th of July, you're walking down the street and you see trash. Well, isn't that terrible? They shouldn't do that. Instead of saying that, maybe we should just pick it up. People see us serving. When it comes right down to it, when in doubt, Just serve. Just serve. The world will know that we're followers of Jesus by the way we love one another. And a great way to show how much we love one another is to serve one another. I believe the world's watching. I believe the world is watching you and me, every follower of Jesus. And I also believe we need to pay attention to that. Jesus came and he modeled what it's like, and we should follow his example. So, remember the ant? Be like the ant and just serve.